Welcome back to the channel, everybody. As you can see from both the thumbnail and right here, we have already kicked the 350 to the curb. We'll get into that for the reasons in just a moment, but first, a couple administrative housekeeping type of things. I'd like to apologize for no content over the last couple weeks. The behind the scenes info is my dad had come out for a 3-month visit, but since I am an awesome son and a phenomenal host, he ended up staying about 10 months. And he just left last weekend. And so what that means for the channel is actually a couple things. I have now will be able to record a little bit more. I had moved my studio, which is a fancy content creator word for my desk, out to the living room. And of course, since my dad was out visiting, he was out a lot, so it just made my content creation a little bit more difficult as I kind of had to plan around his schedule, and now I don't have to do that. And so I'm looking to produce a little bit more content, both flying and non-flying. So hopefully this is where the shameless plug comes in. You'll continue to support all those endeavors. And as we proceed a little bit further in maybe this video or in the next, we'll kind of talk about what I think I have planned for the channel. The other thing I would like to discuss is I have just created a Discord. And what I mean by I created it, I paid someone from Pakistan to do it for me. So you should see a link down in the description. Please jump on board. It's going to have probably a list of all the games I'm going to be covering or now and in the future. Just a great place to hang out. I think I'm going to have I'm going to throw in some of my old flight plans that I have at my airline. So you guys, if you want to input them in as you're flying around, you can actually have some real flight plans. Probably throw in some takeoff landing data, so you guys can, if you're flying, especially if your guys are all in the Phoenix flying the 320, you actually have some actual numbers that you can use, screenshots, all that kind of stuff. Just a great place for us all to hang out. Polls, hopefully you can jump in on some of the polls I create so you can decide what you would like to see now or in the future. The other thing I'd like to do, and it's just something I've been thinking about for a while, is I'd like to have maybe, and you'll see a link down in the description below today, and going into the future, is some friends of the channel, some content creators who are friends of mine or who have helped me out in various ways. Just a big believer in that. You know, when I got my job at my airline, I had someone vouch for me. I didn't even know the guy. He was just a friend of a friend. And so, you know, the same thing here. I don't mind pushing other content creators. I'm not in competition with anybody. I'm in competition with myself just to try to create the best content I have. And so I have no problem focusing on other content creators. And this week he's a personal friend of mine. I met him through a Discord on another game that we're with, and it is Brewdoer Guy. I will link his channel link in the description below. He covers mostly stuff like Schedule 1, and a couple other more like business kind of simulators, even though Schedule 1 is the new current horticultural growing and distributing simulator. He covers a lot of different content. He just got started. I think he only has like 40, 50 subscribers at this point. And so if you like that content, please, man, go over there, check him out, leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And heck, while you're at it, be able to like and subscribe on this channel while you're at it. All right, so moving on. So the reason I think I talked a little bit about this last episode about the King Air in my initial first impressions was I just didn't think it was a completed product. And I did like another flight off camera. And to be perfectly honest with you, I just don't think that aircraft brings any good value to this channel at all. Some of the issues I had, and I probably should have known, look, when you choose the King Air in the marketplace, they don't even have the picture set correctly. And there was just a host of issues I found with that plane. Whether it was just, you know, the brakes not working, no transponder, the difficulty in inputting info into the Garmin system, which should not be that difficult in a modern aircraft like that. It's just because the systems are not working correctly. Fuel issues, the lack of things that just didn't work. Pretty aircraft, but honestly, just not really, I thought, up to the standards for this channel. I remember trying to figure out fuel flow. That didn't work, so I had no idea what I was doing in real time. Did it matter if I went up high? Should I just skim along at 1,000 feet? Just the modeling, the aerodynamic modeling, I thought was, horrible. And just all the systems not working. So what have I chosen? This is a payware, straight up. It's a payware aircraft. It's from NEXTGEN Simulations. It's the Embraer Bandeirante 110. It's been out since 2020. They've updated to be fully compatible with Microsoft 24. I don't believe it's study level in the same way Kodiak is, but the Kodiak still has not been brought up, at least I haven't checked in the last probably couple weeks, month, up to 2024 standards. So that's another aircraft I really, really enjoyed. I just found it to be a little bit buggy, and which, as I told you before, I think, I couldn't really have an aircraft that was buggy, especially on my limited kind of content creating window, and then just not have it not work. And so I've done probably about 3 flights in this. I am definitely not an expert. We will probably learn some of this stuff together. But I found the aircraft to have the systems function correctly. I think the modeling and the detailing is very, very nice, especially up front. It sounds great, and it's a little bit old school, as we'll see. So I think it's going to be a great addition to the channel. It's also just, I don't really choose the aircraft I fly necessarily for OnAir, but, the King Air was 6,500, I think, credits an hour to rent. This is like 3,300, and it carries 18 passengers. So basically almost the same thing. Now it's a little bit slower. We're going to cruise around 200 knots, but we have no place to be, so who cares? So so far I've really enjoyed it. I'm actually excited to fly the aircraft, and it was not with the King Air. I just thought it was just so lacking. I wouldn't say I was regretting flying it. It was kind of a blah. And I think hopefully, look, the game is still very new, and as you know from all my other videos, you don't really hear me talking bad about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. That other content creators can do that. They can complain. I think we all know what the state of gaming is in the modern era. Things are just not produced at the level we would like them to be when they first come out, and I think I was just expecting this to have some minor issues. Still waiting for update 2 to show up. Hopefully that's coming around the corner, and when we do that, we may go back and revisit maybe some of the included career modes and see if that's improved. I just found that once again lacking, especially when we have other options, for instance OnAir, to use. So anyways, that's where we stand. That's kind of like some of the administrative stuff I want to take care of. This is, as we just do a real quick walk around here, I think it's a really good looking aircraft. Sorry, a little bit jerky there. Just trying to go smooth, which I cannot do. There's really not a lot to do out here. None of these are interactive, so to speak. There's a tablet inside that we will see, so we'll just take it from there. But once again, nice looking aircraft. Managed to find a livery for Brazil, where we're currently located, which I thought was kind of cool. Not the reason I chose the plane, but it's pretty nifty. All right, so let's just jump into the aircraft. So I think on this video, we're not going to go through the full startup. I've already been yippity yapping for probably far too long. So I'll meet you on the runway, but just check out some of the details on this aircraft. It's just very, very nice. We can zoom in. Those fuel flow gauges down there actually work. There's a transponder we can see. And when I said I think it wasn't study level, I haven't been able to torch the engine yet, which I did. I think I remember telling you like the first 3 times I started up the Kodiak, just completely fried the engine. So this I haven't been able to do. I'm still trying to fly it as regular as I can, or as realistic as possible, but I'm not sure it has the quite same level as like maybe the Duke, where it's kind of hard to get started unless you perform the exact procedure correctly. It doesn't have that level of detail, but it, I think, has an exceptional level of detail as we come down here. All the gauges are easy to read, especially here in 4K. You can actually read them. All these systems work, whether it's the annunciator lights, the fire test push button, all this stuff actually works. And as you see, we've got a 530 and a 430. So no really advanced avionics. It's going to be a lot of 6-pack flying, and we'll definitely use the GPS. We're not reverting back to the 1950s, but we don't have the nice Garmin 1000 or 3000 suites where we can just input everything. The autopilot system, a little bit funky. Looking down here, that's where it is down there. That little, it's not illuminated, but just below it is how we're going to control vertical speed. So anyways, let me jump out on the runway here. We'll just kind of get going. We'll talk a little bit about the aircraft as we're flying. But at the next episode, I'll walk you through the complete start. I will mention, because this is updated for 2024, there is the interactive normal checklist you would find in the EFB. So if you pick this up in the meantime, maybe I picked up on Sim Market for like 20 pounds or 19 pounds 99. I don't know if that's not real currency. It's 19 pounds and 19 shillings, farthings, something. I don't know. Just irritating all my English friends. So not overly expensive. And I'll try to include a link of it. I also, if I remember, which I'll try to do, I'll include a link for the manual, which is fairly in-depth, everything, how to install it and how to configure the controls to your, if you have the Alpha and Bravo setup. Anyways, enough of the yippity yap. It's been too much of that. Let's actually go do some flying. So I will meet you out on the runway. And as I mentioned, if I didn't mention that, next episode, we'll go through the complete startup sequence. I've kind of modified it a little bit to make a little bit more sense. But we'll see that in the next episode. Really excited to show that to you. And let's get going. All right, everybody, I'm back with you. We are out on the runway for an intersection departure. We have our props full forward, our mixtures full rich. The only thing we need to do now is put our auto feather to on, and we are ready to go. All right, let's drop brakes. Right up to 100%. And we're looking right around for about 100 knots or so. Let's see if I can get back on center line. All right, coming up on 80. $95. A little bit of aft pressure.
Airborne time logged.
Let's go gear up. I might bring all the torque all the way up. Look at that. Like I said, I still need to learn the aircraft. No wonder I had a hard time lifting off. All right, we'll get ourselves right on course here already. Well, that was an exceptionally poor takeoff. That was 100% on the RPM. Of course, it's all synced, but I didn't have my torque all the way up, so it took off about half power. Outstanding. Really wants to climb though. So we've got 10 degrees on the positive pitch angle. We're coming up at, I think I need even more. Nice climb rate, almost 4,000 feet per minute. That'll come down here in just a second. And then if I come down here, we will just set our, we'll select nav mode. That'll keep us on heading. Actually, what we'll do here is kick that back off here in just a second before I engage it. We'll level out here just a little bit. We'll hit autopilot to on. It'll start a turn. We can come down to here. We've got 16,000 dialed in. We will do engage, vertical speed. We will right click and we'll just drop it down to 1,000 feet per minute. And arm. All right, let's come back over to here. PSI showing about 1,000 feet per minute. We are on nav, and we are 5,300 per 16,000. All right, other than that really pathetically poor takeoff. Once again, I'm gonna have to learn this aircraft, right? I was focusing on the wrong set of instruments. I was looking here, which I'll put a little description, and then I should have been focusing up there. All right, so we managed to do that. So the after takeoff, right, frankly, gear up, flaps up, which this aircraft, unless you're on a short runway, it'll be a flap 0 takeoff all the time. We then want to come over and hit auto feather to off. And then we'll come down and we want propeller sync to on. And then we'll come up to the overhead panel and we can turn our inertial separators 1 and 2 to off. And while we're up here, we can, oh, it did take off my landing light off. Put that on. There you go. More dings. All right. You know what? I actually have a checklist. I probably should have used it. All right. So once again, I think it's a really nicely detailed aircraft. Let's come down here and look at the instrument cluster. You can see if I pull back, let's check out the fuel flow. I'll pull back on one engine a little bit. It's trying to auto sync. That's why it's bouncing around. But you can see over there on the right. Look at that. Fuel flow actually works. We have 1,200 pounds. That checks out. Overall, I really like this aircraft. Move over here a little bit. Old school HSI on there. I'll show you how old school it is. We've got 2 ADF receivers. I don't even know how to do an ADF approach, or NDB approach. That's how old they are. Great for listening to a radio, though. You can tune in AM radio stations. All right. So as mentioned before, what is coming up for the channel? Well, I have 2 out of the 3 boxes still waiting on the third. I think I mentioned that in the last episode. I just ordered a sim cockpit, and my last Virpil box should arrive the end of next week. So hopefully within the next 10 days to 2 weeks, I should have a full helicopter setup. So the plan will be we'll restart probably back over in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. The career mode will advance through there with the helicopter stuff as I'm doing that. You can use helicopters for OnAir or NeoFly, which is another series I'm just getting ready to start. So we'll be doing another program called NeoFly. Very similar to OnAir, but there are some differences. So we will cover how to install the aircraft. There's a couple installation issues with NeoFly that I discovered, but I figured the work around those. It's actually very, very simple. It's just not explained. So we're going to start a NeoFly series here in the next probably, I don't know, week to 10 days as well. We'll see. We're going to kind of space some things out. I don't think this OnAir series is nearly done with. I think I'd like to really enjoy flying this aircraft. We're going to be doing all sorts of different old school approaches, not NDBs, but we'll do maybe some VORs, some GPS, some ILS, using kind of the basic functionality of the 6-pack. Really work on improving our instrument scan. All right, so we've got helicopter for Microsoft, base level Microsoft 2024. We're going to continue this series for a bit longer, I think. Like I said, we'll fly this. Maybe we'll move into, I don't know, one of the other larger regionals. I think I'll post a poll on my Discord so you guys can decide what aircraft we move into after that. Also depends if we can get some, in the intervening time, some new mods. We could choose something like that. We will start a NeoFly 4 series as well. Once I get the hang of flying a helicopter, which kind of sounds weird to say as I've got about 10,000 hours flying it, but I got to figure out how to fly it in the sim. I'm thinking about going over to Digital Combat Simulator, DCS World. I've already picked out a helicopter. It's the Kiowa, which is effectively the Bell 407, which I used to fly medevac when we turned in our EC-135 for maintenance. We actually had to turn in our 135, and we picked up a 407, which was kind of cool. Flew that for a little bit, and before we got our 135, let's come up over here above 10,000 feet. We'll turn off our landing light. So that, I think, is kind of on the flying on the horizon. The time frame for all that stuff, like I said, I'm not sure. I really want to get flying in the helicopters. I'm really excited about that. That's actually one of the whole reasons I got into flight simming in the first place. I don't know if I've told this story before, but I was watching another content creator using VR. So I grabbed my son's very old Quest 2 headset, plugged it into my very old laptop, and did a simple pattern around San Juan. No surprise to any that know me. I fly down there a lot, one of my favorite places. And just did a simple flight in the 152. Just did a traffic pattern, and it was awesome and horrible all at the same time. Obviously, my laptop couldn't keep up with the requirements, so there was a lot of screen tearing, a lot of black screens. I had to move my head like really slow like this to make it work, but if I moved over like this, the whole screen would tear. But I really enjoyed the process. For the first time, it actually kind of felt like I was flying. And obviously in VR, you get that nice three-dimensional sensation. I really, really enjoyed it. Of course, I just didn't have any hardware to run it. So that's how I ended up getting into it. I talked to my wife about it and said, hey, I think there's something I'd like to do. I think it'd be totally awesome to go back to start flying helicopters again, because the reality is I have a friend of mine that owns a helicopter business, but unless I hop a ride with him, which I'd have to go all the way out to LA to do, the chances of me flying a helicopter are very, very slim these days. They're very, very expensive to rent. I'd have to get checked out. To get checked out, I'd have to fly with some instructor who I probably have, I think I said about 11,000 hours. So I probably have, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 times more hours than he does. I used to be a test pilot for Robinson. I mean, what's this guy going to teach me? So I'm going to have to actually get checked out by this guy, all the while paying $300-400 an hour. For what? So the reality is I'm probably not going to fly helicopters really ever again. So that was really kind of the impetus. I'm like, oh, this would be kind of a similar type of experience. Might get kind of my desire to fly helicopters occasionally. And that's where the whole process took off from. Me wanting to fly helicopters in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I just obviously haven't been able to get to that point yet. But it's been really the focus. But to do that, then of course I really wanted to get the good quality controls. I wanted to start this channel. That's a whole nother conversation why I got into that. But that was really the whole impetus, was actually get into helicopters. So I'm very excited to get started and moving forward with that process. And then, like I said, so we'll probably start there initially. I'm going to pick up DCS probably right after I get my cockpit and get that fired up and going. It might be a little bit before I actually start broadcasting anything on it. Not really sure really anything about DCS. Just seen a couple of videos. I think flying around in the effectively the 407 would be kind of cool. I think about doing all my helicopter stuff. I do have a Crystal Himax light that I bought last year. I have not even hooked it up to 2024 yet. I have an hour or two total time actually flying around it in 2020. Really enjoyed it, but I need to get that up and configured. I haven't bothered because if you're following anything with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, we know that there's been some definite issues in the VR space. I wasn't really pushing it in terms of how quickly I could get out there and start flying with it. I would rather have a nice, seamless experience than to be constantly, aggravated, so to speak. So, Update 2, I hear, has a lot of great VR additions to it, or smoothing it out. So I think flying helicopters in VR will probably be the next kind of big thing I go through. Doing that also in DCS, learning that, learning how to shoot bad guys. So that covers the helicopter stuff. Like I said, I've got an idea of how I want to do a new Neofly series. I think I'm going to base it in Southern California, where I grew up and started my flying career. So that might be kind of cool. I'll have plenty of stories to tell. And I think I'll base out of, probably right now, I'm thinking about basing out of Torrance Airport, which is where I was a test pilot for Robinson Helicopter Company, RHC, for a couple of years, and taught the safety course, all sorts of stuff. So that is the overall plan for that. And then in the non-flying stuff, I think I will continue with the iRacing, not as popular, 15 climbing, 16,000, 1,000 to go. Not as popular as I would have hoped, but I enjoy racing. I'm very, very competitive, as I said. That little orange light you see on the altimeter is actually telling me I have 1,000 to go. That's a little visual indicator. And let's see if I got this set up correctly, because once again, I am not a real expert here, but I've got 1,000. We got the alert. All right, it's armed. That should work. So I am going to continue with the iRacing. I'll keep putting the videos out there. I enjoy doing it. But it's a little bit of work, right? Like, I've got to practice and practice and practice. I'll have more time now to do that once again, because my father isn't out, so I can spend more time practicing and doing stuff I really couldn't do when he was here. And the thing we're really looking here, just by the way, I'm going to interrupt myself, is very top there. We see those are the temperatures. We are in, and we're coming up there, looking at now our annunciator panel says out hold. So that's what we want to see. And then the nose drops. All right, so that's what we wanted to see. It looks like it's holding 16,000. Anyways, one of the things we want to be mindful of is our temperatures. Once we get up to cruise here, we can pull back on our props. It says about 90%. We're already hitting like 101. And that's what I mean. It's not maybe quite study level. But there we go. All right, set that right there. All right, looks good. Okay. So what was I saying? So I enjoy doing that, but I think what I will be starting here, maybe as soon as this weekend, is American Truck Simulator. I've had that game for, gosh, I don't know, years. I've had it for years since it first came out. And I really just never got into it, but I hooked up my Moza R5 wheelbase. I really kind of enjoyed that process. And I think we will probably continue with, start a brand new series of that. But I'm going to do a ultra realistic, quote unquote, hardcore series, right? Realistic fuel economy, realistic physics, setting the in-game settings, suspension, brakes to represent as close as possible realistic driving. And of course, much like racing, I have no experience. I've never even sat in the cabin of a semi-truck, so God help us all. So that is kind of like the plans for the channel in the next probably month to 6 weeks. So, all right, we are up here at altitudes. We still have another hour and 3 minutes to go. So I will probably just cut away to a quick, I don't know, we'll do some external shots like I like to do, some cinematic stuff. And I will see you as we make the approach. There is no approach here at the airport I'm going to. There is no NDB, BOR, GPS, ILS, localizer, nothing. It'll be a pure visual approach. So, but we'll check in there probably as I get a little bit closer here. No reason to see all this cruise stuff unless you like to hear me continue to blather on. All right, everyone. So I will see you just as we're making our way down towards landing. All right. See you in a minute. All right, everybody. I am back with you. Just passing through 5,000 feet. I have set myself up, I hope, through the EFB on a right base into runway 26. A little bit of excitement as I was getting some of those external shots I like to do. I entered slew mode. Never heard of it. Didn't know what to do. And it's Shift Z, by the way. It will actually stop the aircraft and then you can move it all over the place. But of course, when that happens, that screws up OnAir. So there will be no OnAir store after we land on this. I'm going to have to refly this flight off camera, which is no problem, but it's a little bit surprising and or aggravating. All right, so as we start making this approach, and really it's not a whole lot to do for our pre-landing. What we need to do, though, is come down here and turn off prop sync, and then turn back on auto feather. And that's about it. All right, looking for about 2,500 feet. Sorry about hitting it. So about that. Saying we're about 7 miles out, so we're looking good. Slow up that rate of sync. Late on that. Anyways, we'll level out here right about 2,500 feet. I've already pulled back throttle a little bit. I think I did that early. Still got a couple minutes to go until we get to that right base. Yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. Actually, a little bit panic-inducing, too, because I was probably about an hour into the flight, and I had no idea what was going on. I really like this aircraft. It's been a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of potential. Off camera, I'm going to try to make our way a little bit further south, I hope. And more importantly, I just want to get to some larger airports so we can start picking up SID stars, actual approaches, and then start incorporating either beyond ATC or say intentions. So, sorry, a little bit of a mind stopped working there for a second. All right, so we're getting close here. It says we're about a minute out. Zoom in here. That should bring us into, I believe, slight left and slight right turn. Let's pull up our EFBs. So it's showing us. No, it's not. So it's going to give us right over top of the airport. That works okay too. So let's go ahead and pull back our power a little bit. And is that our runway right over the top there? Ah, it's a dirt strip. All right, so we're coming up right over the top, 2,500 feet, which is about 1,500 feet. I think it's 600 feet here, so we're just a tad high. So let's start pulling out some power. We'll bring in flaps 1. We'll kick off the autopilot. And I'm going to have to start doing, as Mav Goose would say, some of that pilot shit. All right. So there's our runway. All right. That's a little disappointing. Keep pulling out power. Let's start descending a little bit here. So let's go ahead and drop our gear. Right on to downwind. trim here a little bit. Let's drop our second notch of flaps. About 1,000 feet AGL. Looking good. Keep coming around. Probably not far enough, so we'll keep on coming down here, start our turn. One more notch of flaps. Looking right around 100 knots. Oh, overshot. Probably corrected that. Not the best pattern, but we can make that work. Right about 100 knots approach speed looks good. Final notch of flaps. This is a long runoff area. All right, so we should be able to handle that. Cut power.
That, my friend, is how you land an aircraft.
Dang right. There's my clapping. I needed that. I just landed in San Juan. Literally the first thing I asked. It was actually a totally cockamamie approach as the glide slope went out, which was a little bit surprising. It was right on final approach, and aircraft started pitching up, started doing a bunch of weird crap. But man, I just kicked off the autopilot, landed it, did a visual approach, and landed. Luckily, it was just VFR out. As soon as I got out, I greased it right on Tim. And as soon as I got out, the very first question I asked, I said, "Did everyone clap?" A very distinctly Caribbean thing. All right, so that is the first flight in the Bandeirante, Embraer, or the Embraer 110. Matter of fact, since we are no longer on OnAir, we could probably just bring it to a stop right here. All right, folks, that is it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Those left and right fuel warnings come on when you have 100 pounds of fuel remaining. I definitely was playing around in the flight. Right around 90-95% seems to kind of like the best trade-off between fuel economy and speed, but we'll probably cover that on the next flight. In the next flight, we will go over the startup in its completion, and as I said, hopefully we'll get down a little bit further south so we can bring in beyond ATC or say intentions. Other than that, once again, I appreciate all the support. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care for now. Bye.